Charles Barkley has been feuding with just about everybody of recent, and where we used to, I shouldn't say we, where the media used to honor him for his outspokenness and being authentic and real, now it seems to have taken a turn. I know, Ben, you're not a huge fan of the majority or the popular opinion, but it seems as if a lot of people have started to go against Charles Barkley. Personally speaking, I love Charles Barkley. I love how authentic he is and what he says, and I think that's part of the freedom of speech. You're allowed to say these things. And the NBA playoff TNT panel is the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Let me be clear about what I don't like, because this is part of it.
Please do.
I'll kill all of you.
It's a thought that a minority opinion is a majority opinion.
Okay.
That I don't think people are angry at Charles Barkley. I don't think this is a real thing. Charles is honest, frank. He has said a number of incredibly dumb things over the years, and mostly, though, really interesting things.
Yeah.
So overall, and he's not making big political decisions. He's not affecting the lives, so he gets to, his mistakes are fairly unimportant.
Well, he's not the governor of Alabama yet.
Right, he's not the governor of Alabama. He's not the chief Supreme Court judge in Alabama. He's not Roy Moore. Roy Moore is doing damage.
Roy Moore's got some issues.
Scott Walker does damage. Charles Barkley, and he's fairly interesting. The clip he has with the Dan Patrick Show is why he's such a great guest.
Yes.
There's this great interview with Patrick.
He's very real.
He's very authentic, and Patrick is in a feud that Colin Cowherd started, and Dan Patrick kind of ended effectively. And Barkley's admits, in the interview, he's like, I like both you guys. I like it because I like both those guys too, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know either of them, but I'm like, oh no, don't fight. Right? But Barkley makes that interview fun and funny and interesting. And the fight with Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, that's
Boogie.
fake.
So what I really don't like is why something like, so Boogie Cousins says, I don't respect Charles Barkley. Okay, who cares?
Charles Barkley wins there. They're right. The Kings should not have been spending time asking DeMarcus Cousins who the coach is.
Yeah.
This is a guy who almost played himself out of the league, and now is playing great. But and if DeMarcus Cousins, by the way, doesn't get that having, first of all, DeMarcus Cousins has every right not to trust Kings management at this point because Michael Malone should never have been fired. But George Karl will help. Yeah. George Karl will help. And Barkley's right. You don't need to consult DeMarcus Cousins. He has not earned that. And I think Barkley's right. And again, the fight with Dwayne Wade is a silly fight. And I think Gabrielle Union thinks it's silly. And they're just having fun. My hunch is they all like each other.
Almost all the fights that occur right now are pretty silly overall.
Right. We live in a time when everyone's tweeting and doing all this stuff. So things are far outblown now than they were back then. As far as Barkley, generally, I've had a total 180 in the last 20 years on him, because remember when the I'm Not a Role Model commercial came out? That was probably around 93, 94. I remember I hated him for that because all those guys were my role models. Right. They really were. I had posters of all of them in my bedrooms. So they were my role models, and here he was basically, telling me to go fuck myself, which is what he was doing to all those kids. Now, in retrospect, I realize why he was saying it, and I understand the bigger social context or whatever. But now I love him more than ever because we live in a time when people seem to be afraid to say things, afraid to say unpopular things, and he just says what he thinks, and he doesn't care. And I think we need more of that. Even, he says some dumb stuff, and I don't agree with him on everything, but he says what he thinks, and I have no problem with that.
All right. Dave clarified, we think Charles Barkley is just being authentic and real. What do you guys think?
Who was a poster on your wall growing up? This is now we're going to test what's going on.
I didn't do posters, but it would have been fair.
It would have been fair. Fawcett. Okay.
Well, that's not fair. It would have been Jacqueline Smith, but I don't know that there were Jacqueline Smith posters.
I would imagine there could have been a.
And then I thought Cheryl Ladd, who was, I believe, Farrah's younger sister on Charlie's Angels.
And I had a bunch of half-naked, swety men. So what do you know? Hey.
But I thought Cheryl Ladd was. I thought Cheryl Ladd was more attractive than Farrah, which was an opinion that was a hostile point to take. But I was courageous. And I stuck by my principles.
Would you rather have Farrah Fawcett?
I was loyal to Cheryl Ladd.
Would you rather have Farrah Fawcett on your wall, or Charles Barkley, or who?
Or Ben
Let us know.
Mankiewicz.
Or Ben Mankiewicz. We're going to issue some Ben Mankiewicz shirtless posters.
No.
ShopTYT.com. Let us know in the comments right down below.